What's up, everybody? Welcome to With All Due Respect. I'm Marcus Flowers, and that's our good friend Madeline Summerville, as always. Hey, Maddie.
Hey.
Well, guys, welcome back. We've been gone for a few weeks. Took a little trip around our beautiful country, celebrating 250 years of America. So I decided I'd get out and see a little bit of it. What would you do the last few weeks, Maddie, while we were off?
Well, it was not nearly as cool as yours. As y'all know, Marcus is a girl dad, and he took his girls fishing. And
Fished around and found trout. That's what we
yep,
did.
and I thought about you the whole time. I was worried about whether you had the right shoes or not, because the Jewish mother in me wants to make sure that you're eating and safe and everything.
Whole lot to eat. Whole lot to eat. Yeah.
Good. We didn't do
Oddly
much
enough,
here.
I lost weight on this trip. I didn't gain.
You did?
So, yeah, I lost about 4 pounds. So
Well, okay. That's good.
that beer and steak diet really works. Let me tell you.
Like RFK would suggest.
Yeah, right. So,
Yeah.
meat and beer. All right, everybody. This is a show where we cut through the nonsense and actually talk about what's happening. Not the version you get in a press release, and definitely not the version you get from people who think that yelling is a substitute for leadership. Every week, we bring you real conversations with real people who are in the fight, candidates, organizers, experts, folks who aren't just talking about making change, folks who are out there actually doing it.
Mm-hmm.
And then we break down the headlines, because let's be honest, the news cycle right now, it is a lot. Culture, politics, it's all colliding. War. And somebody's got to make sense of it. So whether you're here to stay informed or get fired up about something, or just to hear somebody say what you've been thinking all week, you're in the right place. So let's get into it. And Maddie and everybody, we have a guest today who, when I think about leadership, the Army and the military in general has an acronym for leadership. It's LDR-SHIP, and it's basically Army and Military Core Values. It stands for leadership, duty, or loyalty, duty, respect, selfless service, honor, integrity, and personal courage. And let me tell you, our next guest, in my opinion, embodies leadership. Our guest is former Representative Elaine Luria from Virginia's 2nd Congressional District, who is currently running for re-election in that seat. She is a Navy veteran of 20 years and retired at the rank of commander. She is also a graduate of the U.S. Naval Academy. Congresswoman Luria sat on the J6 committee, where she and Adam Kinzinger co-led 8 public hearings in July of 2022.
So badass.
So we talk about that personal courage, where she stood up and did the right thing.
So badass.
Sat on the Armed Services Committee, where she served as vice chair, as well as sitting on the Veterans Affairs Committee and several other very important committees. Congresswoman Luria, thank you for joining us today.
Welcome.
How are you?
Doing well. Good to see you, Marcus and Madeline. Great to join you, and welcome back from your vacation.
Well, we're so glad to have you today. And before we get started, before I ask you questions, I got a little bit of news to share with you. You and I, we have a lot in common. And no, I wasn't a Navy commander, and I was in the Army. But you and I were born in the same state, the same year, on the same day.
Really?
Well, happy birthday coming up.
Really. Right down the road from you. You're from Birmingham. I'm originally from Troy, but I grew up in Talladega. So
Okay.
Right down the road from you.
Oh my gosh, maybe you guys were born at the same hospital.
No, I was born in Troy. She was born in Birmingham.
Birmingham. Okay, gotcha.
I was born in Birmingham.
So it's a little bit of a ride, but I grew up in Talladega, so we grew up right down the road from each other. So
That's awesome. I love it.
Crazy.
When is your birthday?
August 15th.
Are you a Leo?
I am indeed.
That's a good one. I like Leos.
Leos, we're great people, let me tell you. I should say so myself.
Yep.
So Congresswoman Luria, you have had a remarkable career in both the Navy and in Congress. Can you just tell us a little bit about, parts of that journey that shaped who you are, and, shaped who you are the most?
Well, yes, I'll start off by, beat Army. We can be friends 364 days a year, but there's one day a year
Not that big.
that we have a little rivalry. But I won't ask, since we're both Alabama natives, whether you're an Alabama or Auburn fan. But my husband did go to Auburn. But
Made that clear.
I like your husband.
As my career goes, you mentioned my 20 years in the Navy, and I was a surface nuclear officer. So, for folks who aren't that familiar, it means I drove ships, operated nuclear reactors on aircraft carriers, then deployed 6 times to the Middle East, Western Pacific, on 6 different ships. And at the end of my career, I commanded a combat-ready unit of 400 sailors, here in the district in Virginia Beach, and all of the amphibious landing craft on the East Coast. And a lot of times when I talk about, the military, weapon systems, operators, Tomahawk weapon systems, a variety of different complex things over my career. But the thing that stood out to me the most, and Marcus, you can tell me, you probably have very similar experience, is that the part about serving in the military was the impact on other people's lives. And the things that I take away from my service are those anecdotes. And sometimes you only hear 1 out of 100 stories from, small gestures that you did that helped someone on their path, or helped their family, or just made true. Definitely taken that forward into my service in elected office. I that serving in Congress, I was elected originally in 2018, was a way to continue, looking back on my time in Congress as well, that service to our community, the constituent services, which is, often overlooked in campaign season when there's a lot of volleys and, politicized things, the people who call into your office and they need help with their grandmother's Social Security, or they're recently widowed, and, they're just dealing with an administrative issue, or a veteran who's trying to get health care from the VA. Those little things have a huge impact across the community, not just the individual, but their entire family. And so really that thread, being able to help and serve people, both in the military and office.
And that rings so true with me as well. I mean, because a big part, as I grew as a leader in the Army and beyond, with DOD and state, and as a contractor, government contractor, it became about people. Of course, the mission was always first, but as a leader, it's really about your people. And I'm sure that carried right over into being in Congress perfectly, because that's what you learn as a leader in the military. You got to take care of what we said, take care of soldiers, but for you, it was taking care of sailors. And, all of that technical stuff that we did, people's eyes glaze over when you tell them that. It's like, oh, okay. I have no idea what you're talking about, but, I get it. You commanded, you were one of the first ACU2 commanders as a female, and you spent your entire career on ships, the entire 20 years. Yeah. Is that correct?
Yeah. So I did. And so when I was at the Naval Academy, and, I wrote my essay, and this thing's really true now because my daughter just lied to and is going to college in the fall. So when I was, and I wrote that essay, applied to Naval Academy, I want to be a surface warfare officer. I want to command a ship. I didn't at the time as a young high school student, and didn't have that opportunity on combatant ships, but that changed. The Combat Exclusion Act was lifted while I was at the Navy. So by the elected, was based out of Japan, and every subsequent ship that I served on after that, was a combatant, cruiser, aircraft carrier, a couple destroyers, and so I really was lucky to have that opportunity for my whole career.
Yeah, it's a hell of a storied career.
That's extraordinary. Can I ask you what made you get interested in becoming a ship commander, especially as a high school student? Were your parents in the military?
No, I about the Naval Academy, went to a summer program, was listening and watching, or had children who are that high school age. It's a great exposure to Naval Academy, and the other service academies have similar programs. So you can go in the summer for a week and experience what it's like for midshipmen. I was just so motivated by the fact that the midshipmen seemed to have, a higher purpose. They were in leadership roles. They really, a vision, felt community. It just felt right. And
Yeah.
And just being the only school I went to, so in there and just set on that path and commissioned after the Naval Academy. I didn't anticipate that I would, do that. But, folks often tell you, as long as you feel like you're making a difference and you're enjoying, you'll know when the time is the time. And, when I reached that 20-year mark, also retired, our daughter was getting older, I felt like that, 20 years was a good milestone. But, certainly in some ways, it's just, flew by.
Oh, yeah. And I would be remiss if I didn't say the Naval Academy is great. Annapolis is pretty cool. Just saying. Yeah, I guess the Air Force is okay, but the other service academies,
rivalry.
I kid. All of the service academies are great. Kids, if you're interested in any of them, I recommend it. If you want to serve your country right out of high school and college, go for it. So, Congresswoman Luria, for people who know your name, and I know a lot of people know your name from watching the J6 committee hearings, but they don't know your full story, how would you introduce yourself in your own words?
Well, if I want to keep it short to the point, I'm a 20-year veteran, former small business owner and mom. And I think that covers, so many aspects of my life and my service and my connection to me.
Veteran and mom first.
Nailed it.
Comes.
Yeah, absolutely. So, you've always had a strong connection to Hampton Roads. And when you're out talking to people right now, what are they saying about the cost of everyday life and affordability in general?
It's the number one I hear about. And it's not just one thing, but it just keeps compounding and compounding and compounding. I mean, the cost of healthcare is really a significant issue for people. And we might this in more detail later, but what the recent actions of Congress and the current incumbent in the seat, the vote have, really made healthcare more expensive and less accessible. We can talk about that in detail. But the cost of, the compounding cost of these, repeated tariff has, really driven up costs for every family in the country, about $1,700 a year. And then the cost of gas. And I think we can get, more into the specific, what the issues are with this war that Trump decided to start in Iran and the fact that there's no exit plan. And wake up this morning, turn on the news, and, although the potential negotiation for an MOU, it's worse than what we had before we decided. It's likely the strait is closed and gas prices are going to get to mention the terrible and devastating, loss of life. We've had 13 service members recently, a 14th, a member of our community here, a commanding officer named Commander Gabe Edwards, who was the commanding officer of a helicopter squadron here, was lost very recently. And it strikes our community directly. I mean, if you think about this as an issue from a community where there were at one point roughly 20,000 sailors from this region deployed. We had 2 aircraft carrier strike groups, an amphibious ready group. The Ford carrier strike group was the longest carrier deployment since Vietnam, returned after 11 months. And the George H.W. Bush carrier, who's deployed now, every time I cross paths with one of the family members of someone who's deployed on that carrier, they say, they just aren't telling us when they're coming home. They said, just be prepared for a year. And that's a huge strain on our sailors and our families, and especially the fact that they're in harm's way, under the orders of a reckless president who, started this war, doesn't have an exit plan, and we're no closer than we were before Iran from having a nuclear weapon. And, beyond that, there's no, looking at the MOU, which I guess has been shredded now, there were no guarantees to stop Iran from, funding Hamas, Hezbollah, Houthis, all of the terrorist organizations were making more dangerous. So, but on that tangent, because you can't talk about gas prices here without talking about
important.
And the layers of impact that it has on our community.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, not only did they not have a real exit plan, they never really had a real plan for getting into this conflict, when everything that everyone before told them that no, you shouldn't get into this conflict. These are the things that are going to be the outcomes, and none of them are good. So here we are.
I get really frustrated because I feel like the question that everyone knows to ask is, where's the money? Like, follow the money. And it's pretty damn clear that the people who are negotiating these deals are the ones who are going to rebuild the war-torn places. And so it makes sense that they would end up with an MOU that doesn't deal with any of the actual peace elements of what's going on. And people can say, you know, that the people who have business interests there, it coincides with peace, but it really doesn't. It coincides with getting it done as soon as possible, and the experts aren't the ones that are working on it. So I think it's extremely important because it goes to the corruption aspect of it, which I think really both sides end up have sort of created a horseshoe to come together on. I think the Democrats really, of course, they were responsible for some corruption, but really got unfairly blamed as the only ones who were engaging in any sort of corruption in Congress. And so I don't know how you feel about all that, but I think it's something really worth talking about and considering.
I think corruption's a problem. I think corruption in this administration starts at the top. And I think some Republicans may feign, having concern about corruption, but not a single one of them is standing up to the corruption of Donald Trump and his family and all of their interests. Yep. So, I think that is a significant differentiator. And, I would, every single time one of these issues is considered, voted on, in whatever capacity it's directly or tangentially related to the ways that the Trump family and all of their administration from their inner circle benefit from it, they just fall in line, and they truly are enablers.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit more about affordability. I mean, you spoke a little bit about, the pressure that people are feeling at the grocery store and definitely at the gas pump. And you've pointed to, I even hate to call them national policies from Trump, because I think these guys are just ready, fire, aim, they just kind of do things off of the hip. But you pointed some of those policies and decisions as part of the pressure that people are feeling. How do you think those choices actually show up in people's day-to-day lives in coastal Virginia? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, you're still here.
I hear you.
I got you.
You're good,
No, no.
Elaine.
Now she's frozen.
Oh, okay. That's okay. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Well, while we're waiting for the former Congresswoman, 'cause she'll be back, I'm sure, in just a second. I know Wi-Fi is treacherous. I hate working with it all the time.
That's how it goes when you're out on the campaign trail.
It happens.
Especially in rural areas. It's hard to find.
Yeah,
good internet.
I was curious. Actually, I was wanting to ask her because she was saying that she justified, voting against. Hey there, she's back. Hi.
Sorry for that. We seem to have a little intermittent Wi-Fi at the moment, but sorry for the brief
No
break.
worries.
No problem.
Start off was talking about the tariffs and the current incumbent. She voted over and over and over again to support these tariffs.
Yeah.
And it's the same tariffs that, a few weeks after her most recent vote, the court came in and said, those are illegal. And what did the administration do? They just found some other obscure emergency provision to implement more tariffs.
Yeah.
And it's just costing people more money. And they're literally laughing at the fact that people are concerned about the cost of living and affordability.
And I just hope, and I know some people are just kind of waking up to, I say some people are waking up. He's still got his base burned, but I think independents and, some of the center-leaning Republicans are waking up saying, okay, we're in a cult. He talked about these tariffs being good and people bought it. And, we were screaming at the top of our lungs.
Mhm.
No, that's not what tariffs are. That tax is going to be passed on to you, ladies and gentlemen. And now people are really, really feeling that hurt. And then you got people like Jim Kiggins, who's, again, as you said, a nurse practitioner who's also a Navy veteran, trying to take people's health care away.
Mhm.
I mean, yeah, I want to take care of you. However, I'm not going to lift a finger and vote and have the courage of my conviction to help you out.
How do you even
in your
justify
lives.
that?
Well, Marcus, it goes even farther than that. So, I've talked about our community. We have the largest Navy base in the world. 40% of our local economy is directly or indirectly Navy and DoD, which also means we have a huge number of veterans. Well, it turns out that all of these, Doge cuts, the cuts to the VA, we have the most severely understaffed VA medical center in the country here.
Wow.
So,
It's unacceptable.
The veteran community as well. And it's just strain after strain after strain. And we've already talked about it, but then on top of that, you want to put gas in your car to go to your doctor's visit, that's costing 50% more.
Mhm.
So it's just a lot. And, I think the big differentiator, and, I look back at the time when I was in the House and the type of legislation that I voted for and was pushing and championing, it's, I felt like all of my goals were related to things that were going to make people's lives better. Like I legitimately could look at people in the district, constituents at a town hall, which she has not had a single town hall in 3.5 years.
That was nuts.
But look at them and say, I'm trying to make your life better. And I was there to listen and find out ways that I could, and I could take that back to Congress and help make change.
I mean, and there's nothing better than that, to be able to look at the things that you're voting on, seeing directly how they're impacting people's lives in a good way. This administration and your current Congresswoman, I'm sure she can look at how people's lives are being affected negatively. And obviously she's not speaking up about it because she's not holding town halls, which, that's not having your conviction. So, and that's not the job, in my opinion. So But again, you talk about, when we talk about affordability, what are the most important things that need to change to give working families a chance? I mean, everybody complained about how bad things were under Biden when inflation was going up. But Biden wasn't doing anything to make it worse. He was doing things to make it better. In fact, inflation was coming down. So, in your opinion, Congresswoman, what do you think needs to be done to help give people some breathing room and relieve their wallets a little bit when it comes to healthcare and affordability for gas and groceries and things like that?
Well, I often get the question from, people out on the campaign trail, like, what's the number one thing you're going to do? What's the first thing you're going to do when you go back to Congress? And, people may be aware that the speaker, and when Democrats take back the House, that'll be a Democratic speaker, numbers the first 10 bills. And so what should HR 1 be, that number one priority? It should be an affordability package. It should address these things. It should reverse the things that the Republicans have cut. I mean, another thing we haven't even talked about, there are so many people that are going to lose their benefit for food assistance, and that includes families with young children. It includes elderly, and we just barely, actually, because those requirements that are shifting are going to cause people to lose it over time. Haven't even seen that impact of food insecurity. So we need to reinstitute those things that this administration has heartlessly cut. We need to get the affordability back in place for the ACA premiums, ensure that those people who need Medicaid have access to it. We need to restaff and reman the VA, and make sure that all veterans have access to the care that they need and deserve. We need to eliminate these tariffs. I mean, it's a long list. It's going to be a long bill, but there's just lots of things that I think that will make priorities.
So much that needs to be reversed. So much damage this administration has caused. I mean, I still get that image in my head of Elon and Doge coming in with the golden chainsaw, just slashing all of those positions, saying, oh, we saved the government all of this money. Now, I think I just read somewhere where there's so many government positions that are vacant. Not even to talk about USAID, an agency that I worked with that did good work. There were some things that
it did really
not done in USAID, but there was a lot of good work being done in USAID and other agencies that just need, to hire professionals. I mean, there was a huge brain drain across agencies in the government because of, this administration, and that needs to be chief among the things that's reversed in the next administration.
I agree. I think it's funny because my husband and I keep joking about the reflecting pool problem, because he was a marine biologist, and so I was like, well, it makes sense because they got rid of all the scientists, that they don't know why any of this is. They're just blaming Democrats because there's no scientists left anymore. So yes, that absolutely makes sense to me. But so before, we had just touched on the corruption piece. And I think it's something that, like I said, I think both sides can really get behind. And I know you've been really vocal about accountability in Washington. So what does cleaning up that corruption mean to you in practical terms? Like what could you do to try to hold people accountable?
Well, I think something, and the Trump administration, the level of blatant corruption that was
just outrageous,
lack of accountability, has really made me focus on this a lot. And I really shifted my view and the importance of this to say that we got to set the example as Congress. And there has been legislation, and it has not moved forward in the House, either under Republican or Democratic control. And there's a discharge petition right now. So if my opponent thinks this is important, she can go sign that. And I think it only needs one more signature. But there's been a lot of times that there have been discharge petitions that only needed one more signature, and she's never stood up and done that. And we can get into that separately. But
red flag.
So I think we need to end individual and members of Congress owning individual stocks. And I think we need to put a kibosh on things like these prediction markets. I mean, obviously, no one in office, or no one working, on the staff of anyone in office should, or any federal agency for that matter, should be, betting on prediction markets for the outcomes of things. I I saw some reporting where, maybe somebody who worked for DOD or some other agency, was voting on predictions related to, whether we were going to have strikes in Iran. And I mean, that is just something that we have
Yeah,
to.
he was spot on. They gave him like $400,000 or something
Horrible.
ridiculous like that. Yeah.
So, I mean, I think that's an important place to start,
Yeah.
to have Congress set the example, put an end to any ability or public perception of, the potential for misusing public position.
Well, I think that definitely shows up with congressional stock trading. We see that a lot with people on both sides. How do you feel about that issue in particular? And why is that issue a priority for you?
I think that we should ban members of Congress from owning individual stocks, and I support legislation to do that. And I think it's important because, we can talk all day about the White House, being the most corrupt we've ever seen in history, and we can start ourselves in Congress by setting an example.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we definitely need to strengthen that institution. I mean, some of it's just so blatant. I mean, it's
and it makes me crazy because the president's like, oh, but we're the most transparent. We're the most transparent administration that's ever existed. It's like, I could tell you all day that I have blonde hair, but you could look at me and see that I don't. Like, the level of manipulation, like linguistic manipulation that goes on makes me crazy. I just, and anytime somebody repeats back to me they're the most transparent administration, I want to jump out the window.
Well, I think what he's telling you is like, he's not hiding the corruption. He's telling people like, hey, I'm going to do this thing and I'm going to profit from it. And
you're going to like it.
Like, they're applauding that. And it is, squandering federal resources, taxpayer dollars, diverting contracts to people who are going to benefit Trump, his associates, and his family. I mean, it is just an absolute abuse of office. And like I said, there's not a single congressional Republican I've heard stand up to this in any meaningful way.
Yeah, let's keep pulling this thread in a little bit of a different way. I mean, there's a lot of frustration with money in politics in general right now, and it really is across the board. So how do you think things like dark money in politics are affecting the trust of the people in government or in good governance?
When I was in Congress, we had a bill. At that time, it was H.R. 1. It was the former speaker's number one priority bill, was that we were going to end the influence of dark money in politics by essentially overturning the Citizens United decision, which allows that type of dark money spending. And I think that we need to put an end to that. And I think also, I mean, there's so many things. I mean, and this has been back and forth. There's been this just gerrymandering all in all war across the country back and forth. And I think once and for all, we need to put an end to that. Here in Virginia, we ended up having a referendum. It was thrown out by the court. But, what I would say is in red states, they're doing it behind closed doors. State legislatures really at the urging, direct influence of Trump, saying, go redraw your votes to help me, win the House, because I know I'm not going to win these seats otherwise. Then you have Supreme Court decision like the Calais decision that's gutting the Voting Rights Act. And that's going to wipe out minority districts across the South. And, California, Virginia, we put a referendum out to the voters. Should we do mid-district redistricting and mid-decade redistricting? And the voters said yes, because, even if we don't like gerrymandering, we're not going to stand by and watch somebody else steal all the seats on the map before an election's ever held.
Right.
But, the bottom line is that the districts did not change in Virginia, but we're still going to flip this seat. And, we're going to
flip it back
with that majority. Yes.
So you've drawn a very distinct contrast with your opponent, Jen Kiggins, Representative.
Who I keep thinking is Ken Jiggins.
Listen up.
Don't know why.
Yeah, you've drawn a contrast with her on these issues. How would you describe that difference in approach to representing the district?
Well, I've mentioned a few things along the way in our conversation. One is she hasn't done a single town hall in 3.5 years. When I served in Congress for 2 terms, I did town halls all over the district in communities that I knew were much less friendly and, where most people didn't vote for me, but I wanted to hear from those communities and everyone, from every background and every perspective. She doesn't answer constituent mail. I was just at a meeting today where a few people came up to me and they said, Elaine, I'm very concerned about such and such an issue. I've written to Jen Kagan's office. All I get back is a form letter. The form letter doesn't even reference the subject of the request that was sent in, or the issue of concern. So there's just no responsiveness whatsoever to the issues that constituents are putting forward to the office. And, I think it's a question of let's look at what we delivered for the district. We served 2 terms. I mentioned, my service on the Veterans Affairs Committee. I was instrumental in really 2 pieces of legislation, one in each term that was, very important for ensuring veterans have access to care. So a lot of people might not be aware, but Vietnam era veterans who served off the coast of Vietnam and were exposed to Agent Orange never had access to VA healthcare until several years ago. And we passed the Blue Water Navy Veterans Act that it was many decades too late and tragic for many of these veterans, but to give them access to care. And then we said, there's all these younger, more recent veterans who served in Iraq and Afghanistan. They were exposed to burn pits. They have all these respiratory issues, rare cancers, and they're just fighting this fight again to say, the reason that I have this illness is because of my service. And, the VA was not substantiating their claim. So we passed the PACT Act, and that is the largest increase in access to veterans care in any of our lifetimes.
It's amazing.
So those are, some significant things that have far-reaching benefits for the community. I mentioned earlier, she's been making healthcare harder to get and more expensive. But, when I was in Congress, we worked on the cutting prescription drug costs by negotiating prescription drugs for seniors on Medicare, capping cost of insulin, passing the ACA premium subsidies to make healthcare more affordable. So those are some issues. And, if you look at the resources I've brought back to the district, every corner of the district, rural areas, rural sewer systems, rural affordable housing, rural broadband. And I said all rural things. You might think this is a fully rural district, but it's very diverse geographically, economically, demographically. We got resources for public transportation. We sit at the mouth of the Chesapeake Bay, so sea level rise is real. Recurrent is real. So infrastructure in order to fight back the effects of climate change, and we're a large port, the 3rd largest port on the East Coast, and due to infrastructure investments that were made several years ago when I was in Congress that have now, that work is completed. We've dredged Norfolk to be the deepest and widest channel on the East Coast, which has benefits not only for national security and our military traffic, but also for shipping and our local economy. And that's just the beginning. Over the course of my second 2 terms, when I was the vice chair of the Armed Services Committee, I introduced legislation for the NDAA, the defense bill that increased defense spending by $62 billion over 2 years, but for critical priorities, things that we really need for our national defense with regards to the Pacific and the threats with China. And we know firsthand here what it means to invest in military readiness and the military resources that we need for the future. And, she has not been a vocal and successful advocate for those things.
Yeah, I don't know Ken Jiggins personally, but I am 100% sure that she is nowhere near as qualified as you. The way that you just addressed all of those things is a way that I've spoken about why Mamdani was so successful, and I don't think it's just because he worked on the affordability issue. I think it's because he gave specific examples of what was wrong and what he was going to do to fix it. Like when he said, I took a look at the budget. This is where we can cut things. This is what we're going to add based on that tax, and we saw where it worked elsewhere in this state. Like he gave a specific way he was going to do that. And then the other thing that is the easiest, right, when you've got somebody who's currently in office, is to be able to say to them, what have you done? Right? What is it that you've done? And you can say that to her and she can fail, right? And then you've got so much behind your name though, in terms of what have you done? You're like, excuse me, let me just tick this off the list. And it's all things that are it's both the extremely visible issues and the less sexy ones, right? Like the infrastructure ones, the ones that's actually I know about this and I want to work on it. So let me. I really appreciate that. And I appreciate that it's coming from a woman because just in preparing for the show today and looking at your record, it's extraordinary. And not just because it's been 20 years, but because, you had held such a significant leadership position. And I think that's a really positive example for people. And I think that we are all really desperate right now for somebody who just knows what the F they're doing. Like, wouldn't that be nice? Just somebody also who cares a lot. That shouldn't really be too much to ask. And I know that you've talked a lot about healthcare in particular, and the fact that your opponent should be much more qualified than she is, or should be much more equipped than she is to do something about it. In Georgia, for example, right? Marcus and I are here. We deal a lot with the rural issues in terms of access to healthcare and hospitals. Do you guys deal with that in the rural parts of your district? I mean, it can relate to the ACA and hospital closures. We had lots of hospital closures here, but what kinds of issues come up for you in those rural areas?
Well, access to healthcare in rural areas is difficult for a lot of reasons. First of all, in rural areas, the distance is just far. It's hard for people to get to that healthcare that they need. And when you talk about these rural,
It's the veterans.
yes, these rural, healthcare facilities closing. We have one here in Franklin, Virginia, which is in the district in Southampton County, which is like literally the Southampton Regional Medical Center. It is at critical risk of closing. And the rural health centers traditionally have a very high percentage of their patients who use Medicaid. And so here you are, you got Medicaid,
Exactly.
and you have this strain on the healthcare system that just creates a domino effect where, the healthcare centers struggle to stay open. You have areas where there's no labor and delivery in that area. So people have to go to the nearest city, Suffolk,
Yikes.
and, when a hospital closes in an area like that, I mean, they say that if you don't get to a critical care unit, an emergency room within 45 minutes, your chances of, not surviving a serious accident go up astronomically.
Literally life and death.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so that is, a specific example of how this is impacting rural areas of this district.
Yeah. What is it? I'm not a medical professional, but I think it's like the golden hour or whatever that they talk about, where
Oh yeah,
you're not getting that care that you need.
it's that critical time period. I know what you mean.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
And that's true for a lot of veterans who, depend on the VA that live out in rural areas, but have to travel an hour, 2 hours, sometimes 3 hours to get to the nearest VA to get the care and meds and things that they need. So, and they don't have those providers out in rural areas that they could go and see. So it's it's one of my biggest issues. One of the things that I talked about, just like Virginia, Georgia has a huge veteran community. Something like 13 military bases here in Georgia. So we have a gigantic military community as well, and veteran community as well. So it's one of my biggest topics. One of the things that I talked about constantly back in my days on the campaign trail. So it just hurts my heart a little bit. So I can only sigh, to hear, a representative who doesn't take constituent services and really caring about constituents to heart that way, because that's the job to me.
What else is there?
Constituent services is the biggest part of the job, I think. You go vote and, draw up legislature, but it's taking care of people again.
I mean, I can't tell you how many times people say, like, I reached out to Jen Kagan's office and I got no response. They didn't help me. It was a dead end. And, I said, well, Tim Kaine's office, our senator, is right around the corner. I wasn't in office. I think you should, take your issue to someone who cares. I think you'll get some better service.
Yeah. So let's talk about, for families who might be worried about losing coverage or seeing the premiums rise, what would you want them to know right now in these times? I mean, the premiums have already risen, but is there hope or help on the way?
Well, here's what I'd say. It is clear that the priority for Democrats in control of the House has always been to make people's healthcare more affordable, more accessible, and better for their families. And you can go back to, passing the ACA in the first place, and all the Republicans wanted to do was just dismantle it, throw it out, and the real difference, I think, is, just look at who cares about your family. And the fact that, every opportunity that Democrats have the ability to get something across the finish line that's going to make healthcare more affordable, prescription drugs more affordable, is a number one priority. And, here we are with the opportunity to flip the House in 2026. We may get the Senate. But we still have somebody in the White House who doesn't seem to care about this. So, I think it's really important that, Democrats are going to come in. We're going to pass that legislation. We're going to move that ball as far as we can. And, we're laying the platform for our presidential nominee in 2028 so we can carry those things across the finish line. But this is, one election at a time. And we got to get the momentum moving. We got to get Democrats in control of the House. I think of it as sort of two words that describe, there's the affordability issue we've talked a lot about, and then there's the accountability issue. And we need Democrats to control the House, every committee in the House for a Democrat to hold that gavel. Because we need to lay out to the American people the damage that's been done by this administration, the path forward and what our solutions are. And then we need to pass that legislation and get it as far as we can and just keep running that ball until we get it across the finish line.
Amen. And we're gonna kind of switch gears into that a little bit, go into accountability now. You served on the January 6th committee, dealing with issues of democracy and accountability. How does that experience shape how you view today's political environment?
What is incredibly disheartening is, Trump comes into office the second time. And by the time he came into office, the January 6th committee, we laid out the facts. We've made recommendations to the Department of Justice. There was an investigation underway. But it didn't move forward fast enough. Trump was reelected. That investigation was dropped. He came into office day one, pardoned 1,500 violent offenders. Today, he's looking to pressure the Department of Justice to vacate the convictions for the most serious offenders, those 12 people, Oath Keepers, Proud Boys, convicted of seditious conspiracy. And it is an effort to just whitewash and rewrite history completely.
And he had the audacity to try to give him money. My goodness.
Yes, and we cannot let that happen. We cannot turn people who are criminals, in many cases violent criminals, who've broken the law, to be rewarded for it and called patriots and heroes. And I think that, moving forward, I do believe, I'm optimistic that, we fast forward into the future several years, history will look back on this time through a very clear lens. Right now, Trump and those people surrounding him are trying to cloudy it and change the story. But I think the American people know the truth, and that the truth will be able to prevail.
Yeah, this country needs to take a step back and really, really look at how we view history and not trying to change it and not putting on rose-colored glasses to see our shared history through.
I'm really passionate about that in particular because I feel like, we're all just learning now about how, with health in general, generational trauma is a thing. And when you have a history of a nation or a people or a community where it doesn't get written down correctly, you don't know how to deal with it, right? If we don't know what actually happened, how are we supposed to deal with the conflict? And you create this like emotional disconnection, you know what I mean, from the truth. And you can feel that on another level. Like, it literally makes us sick as a nation to do that. And it scares me for the future. And it scares me to think about what else has been written down incorrectly. So I do feel like there's such a responsibility. When I heard about Trump putting those plaques up at the White House that had, that was framing what Barack Obama did completely incorrectly and framing the January 6th thing completely incorrectly, it scared me. And so I'm grateful that that's a priority of yours. Thank you for taking that on. But when you take a step back though, and you look at everything like affordability, healthcare, trust in the government, what is it that you see as the biggest stakes in this race?
There's lots of big ones. So narrowing it down to the biggest, I think it's the fact that, people need to feel that they have representatives who care about them and who are working for them and not for their own interests. I think that, when Democrats have control of the House, we've clearly shown through our actions, through our legislation, that we care about the American people. And I think that people are waking up who didn't see this before, are realizing that a Republican-controlled House, Senate, and White House is doing exactly the opposite of that. They're making people's lives more expensive, more difficult, and they just don't care.
They just don't care.
I think that, that is really it's a seismic shift in attitude and values that I think, with that being at the core of everything that Democrats do legislatively, it will lead down a path that's going to make people's lives better.
Yeah.
Love that.
On a more personal note, you've done this before. You've been down this road. You've been a leader for most of your career. You've served in Congress. You know what to expect. You know what's coming. What keeps you motivated to stay in the fight after all of that? After having seen everything and gone through everything that you went through with sitting on the J6 committee, what keeps you motivated to stay in the fight when the issues feel so big and urgent right now and there's so much at stake?
Especially because in Georgia, just from our experience working, being in a state where we're the minority, like being a Democrat, there's such a defeatist attitude constantly, to where it's like, yeah, we could do that, but it's not going to work. Like, it would be nice if that would work, but it's just unrealistic. What keeps you motivated to keep going, even though there's so much from like the establishment, there's so much of that attitude.
Yeah, you look at how people feel about Democrats right now, which is
Right.
crazy.
Yeah.
What keeps you motivated, Congresswoman?
Well, what keeps me motivated, truly, it is my daughter. And I'll go
What's
back.
her name?
Her name's Violet.
Oh, thank you.
So I'll go back to a conversation that, this is a big decision to decide to run for office. And like you've said, having been through this before, my family understands, the impacts that this has on all of us as a family. And, my daughter's older now. She's 16, about to turn 17. When she first ran, she was, I started into this about 8 years old. When you mentioned about, how is history written? Well, I worry about the young people. I worry about her generation from the time that she can remember. So for the 2016 presidential election, she went with me to the polls to vote.
It's a
And
big deal when you're a kid. I loved that.
yeah, I remember going in Alabama with my mom. And so she went with me to vote. And then, the results didn't come out before her bedtime. So she wakes up the next morning and, she was very upset to find out that, Hillary didn't win.
Like, girl, we were too.
You look at that milestone. I mean, that's probably her first political memory, going to the polls with me to vote.
Yeah.
And ever since then, we've been in this state of turmoil. The first Trump administration, threats of a second one, then an actual second one, and this partisan divide that has just widened. And then if you look at America and our standing on the world stage with international relations. So, to fast forward to today, this conversation about deciding to run, she just graduated high school. And so through her senior year last fall, the whole conversation was around, she wants to study international relations or politics and history. She wants to, serve in
her mom
in the government. And, my husband said to her, our generation messed this up. You're going to have to.
Right.
But we looked at each other and, thinking about where we are in history and the fact that, like, we can make a change, like that I can step up, I can run again. Every time this seat flips, VA02, every single time this seat flips, the House flips. At one point, statistically, it was number 218. It is the pendulum seat for the entire House. That's how important this race is. And, I said that, for her, for every other young person like her, I have to stand up and do this and help be part of the change. So that was really it's a very personal story, but that was a real motivator in my decision to do this again.
I love that answer. And we need you back in Congress. I mean, that's, when I say you embody leadership, you truly do, Elaine, in my opinion. And I'm not just blowing smoke, because that's not who I am. I speak it how I feel it. It's the final question before we let you go. Sorry, we kept you here almost the entire hour.
Yep.
Sorry,
not sorry.
So what does success look like for you if you're reelected? And let's just throw in that we retake the House. I'm gonna hold my opinion on whether or not we retake the Senate. Fingers crossed. But what does success look like if you're elected and we retake the House?
Well, I'll pivot back to what I said before, affordability and accountability. I think we attack those issues related to affordability for our families and our communities, and accountability. Like we discussed earlier on, we cannot let history be rewritten. The checks and balances that exist in our Constitution, our government, the way they're supposed to function, they're not functioning today. When you have a Republican-controlled Congress that falls in line 100% behind the president, and you have a court system, the courts and Department of Justice, which are, being very heavily, influenced and pressured to receive.
It's an activist court. I'll say it. I'm just going to say it.
Yeah.
The checks and balances aren't there. And if we want to put a check on what's happening right now on the direction that we're going, the first step is for Democrats to win back the House and us to have that ability to put that check, to lay out to the American people the damage that's been done in the first half of this administration, provide solutions of how we're going to fix those things and get the country back on track and pave the way for a change in the White House in 2028.
Outstanding.
Thank
you for your time today, Elaine. If you would take just a moment, we've appreciated having you first.
Very much. Thank you.
But if you would take just a moment to tell people, where they can find you, how they can support your campaign, because look, everybody, we've got to get her reelected and take back the House.
It's the pivotal seat.
As we know, VA02 is a path to taking back
T-shirts.
It goes through Virginia too. So
it does. So folks want to learn more about the campaign or support the campaign. My website is Elaine for Congress. So that's spelled out the word FOR, ElaineForCongress.com. There's information there about the campaign. You can reach out to us as well if you're in the local area, or if not, Virginia Beach is a lovely place to be in the fall. So you want to come down and knock doors, or even from afar, if you want to make phone calls to voters in our district, we would love to have your help, and you can contact us through the website.
Outstanding. Again, former Congresswoman and future Congresswoman Elaine Luria.
I know that's right.
Appreciate having you, and come back again once you're reelected and talk to us, and we'll talk about some of those the implementation of some of those policies that we need to address accountability and affordability in healthcare. If you would be so kind.
Great. Well, it was wonderful spending this hour with you, and I guess I have to wrap it up by just saying beat Army.
As long as you're not saying roll Tide, I can live with the Army beat
I'm here thing. For it. I am here for the rivalry, guys. I love it.
That's one of those days. There's 2 days for me. There's Army, Navy, and Alabama, the Iron Bowl. Those are my 2 big games of the year in college football. I'm a huge college football fan. I wore this today because because of you. Normally I don't wear my colors, but I had to today. So
well, great. It was good to spend time with you.
And I'm also wearing an Army t-shirt under this one. So
got a costume change halfway through.
Exactly. Awesome. I should have done that. Go Army, beat Navy. Elaine Luria, our guest today. We enjoyed having you. We would love to have you back again. And good luck out on the campaign trail. You got this. You got it.
Thanks again.
Thank you.
Godspeed, my friend. And let me tell you, she's one of those people who, when you talk about integrity, it's she's got it in spades. And I'm
truly competent, qualified. It makes me crazy to think that Ken Jiggins is somehow beating, how is she ever held a candle to her? How could she possibly hold a candle to her? It's unbelievable.
She doesn't. It's just one of those crazy years, after we tried to impeach Trump, and how she sat on the Case committee. She's just like Kinzinger. Her and Kinzinger, she was one of those crew that kind of
the integrity crew.
Yeah, the integrity crew who faced that backlash from constituencies, which I could never truly wrap my head around.
Yeah.
But now I think people see that's the kind of integrity that we need back.
I think so.
We need her back in Congress. So, great guest. She's a great member of Congress. Want to see her back.
Absolutely.
Where she is supposed to be. So,
I love that.
That's all I got to say about that.
Yeah.
Apparently, I feel strongly about it. So.
It's good. As strongly as Auburn and Army v. Navy. Yeah.
Yeah.
I went to Emory.
Maybe more so. Yeah.
So we don't have a team. We are Team Nerd.
You know.
My niece went to UGA and she's at UGA Law right now. So I know you're probably not a big UGA. Your face immediately.
Oddly enough, people say that. I love Georgia.
You do?
Yeah, I mean, Georgia and Auburn are the South's oldest rivals. But for me, it's more of a friendly rival. I don't feel as strongly about the Alabama-Auburn game as I do about the Georgia-Auburn game. I mean, it's,
it's like when the Manning brothers
better of us lately, but everybody has just about.
Yeah. For me, it's like when the Manning brothers would play, because I'm from Indianapolis. So whenever we would play the Giants, like, no, we weren't mad. If we lost, we weren't that mad because we were like, well, the Mannings are happy. Like, their parents are happy. I think we're fine. Like, none of us were that upset.
The Georgia fans, and I know I'm going to catch a lot of flack for this, but the Georgia fans aren't anywhere near as bad as the Alabama fans when it comes
to you.
When it comes to Georgia and Auburn, I don't want to say it's a friendly rivalry because we want to win. Both teams want to win. It's not that bad,
Yeah.
Nobody loses family over that game.
Right.
So
right.
Respect. It's respect there.
Yeah.
I think more respect. Alabama, Auburn, we respect each other, but we just don't like each other when it comes to Iron Bowl day. So can't say the same for Georgia. And I like Georgia. So
that's good. Well, let's talk about some news. Let's talk about what's going on in the news today.
Let's hit some cultural topics. What was I guess Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce tying the knot was a big thing.
Have any pictures come out yet?
I haven't seen any pictures.
I haven't seen any pictures. All I know is Lena Dunham spoke and she made some joke that like pissed people off. And I don't know why I haven't seen a dress yet. Like, I'm sitting here waiting for a picture of the dress. There is no dress. I think she had everybody sign NDAs who came to the party. But also I thought it was very considerate that she did it over 4th of July weekend. That is a very considerate weekend to have your wedding. So
why not? I mean, it's a little bit of crossing streams, but hey.
I mean, people take that weekend off anyways,
So, yeah, a little bit. And I'm sure those pictures are going to leak. I can't wait to see. Yeah. And congratulations to them.
That's so wonderful. I want to see the clothes. I want to see the decor. I want to see all of it. Yeah. Okay. Because I'm pretty sure I'm like the same age as her. And we probably like the same stuff. So I'm going to need to see all the decisions that she made.
I'm sure they're waiting on what is it, like Vanity Fair or one of those?
Oh, yeah.
Spread and pictures of it. But I bet some stuff leaks before it gets.
For sure.
Those things. On some sad news for a soccer fan like myself, the USA's out. We lost to Belgium 4-1. So
yeah,
we
got our asses handed to us on that.
In spite of Trump's best efforts to try to put his finger on the scale,
Daddy couldn't. Pay to make it go away.
Yeah, big soccer fan.
My first game that I watched was the one that was England, Mexico.
Yeah.
And I only watched like the last half an hour of the game. And
good on England for winning that game. So
I fell in love with Mexico watching it because they fought so hard. They just couldn't reorganize a play. Like they kept doing the same play over and over again and I don't even know anything about soccer, but like you could watch how they were moving for the last like 15 minutes trying to score, and they were fighting so hard. And like you could see like the little kids' faces in the crowd, and I wanted them to win so bad. I got nothing against England. I just saw how hard they were fighting.
They were hanging on for dear life,
right?
They were down to 10 players at one point in that game. And
they were.
Normally Mexico doesn't lose there. So
gotcha. Well, I mean, England was, their defense was impenetrable. Like they were extraordinary. So they made a soccer fan out of me with that game.
Oh yeah, I've been watching World Cups for a while. I remember I spent 20 years overseas and in Germany, but I played soccer in middle school and high school as a kid. So
I played soccer in high school, but there were no tryouts, and I spent a lot of time on the bench. My people were not the most coordinated, and that's okay. We have other strengths.
Right, we're actually a decent soccer team. My coach in high school, he was also our sergeant major in JROTC.
Oh wow!
he came in and he took over the team, and we went from being pretty crappy to being pretty decent. I think my last year, we ended up beating the former state champions. I mean, this is a rural school.
That's awesome.
Beating a powerhouse school out of Birmingham. So,
Yeah.
That's
great.
We had some other embarrassing moments, but we had an okay team. So
yeah.
All right. What else happened? Okay, America 250. We talked about that a little bit. So, it's I know people have some mixed feelings about it. I went out and saw the country over the holiday, before the holiday and over the holiday, but when I got back, and I still celebrated.
Yeah, of course.
The thing is, guys, don't let this administration and the way some people are making this thing seem ruin it for you. I mean, that's a big thing. It's a milestone that we've reached, and it had been in the works for more than a decade.
Yeah.
To get this thing off. It didn't quite turn out the way it should have turned out,
right,
because everything Trump touches turns to shit, apparently.
That's correct.
But it was still a cause for celebration to go out, do some barbecuing, see some fireworks, celebrate this milestone for America. We're on the way back. We just gotta fight hard in this election, blunt the rest of this guy's administration, and start making those changes Congresswoman Luria was talking about, to put the check on this administration's ruthlessness and lawlessness.
Yeah, I was a commentator on Newsmax for like a year and a half, and if there was one thing that I mean, there are a bunch of things that I wish I could tell somebody who's in charge of the Democratic Party and just be like, please listen to me. One thing that would make a huge difference for undecided voters, or just even tipping the energy more in our direction, just to have people trust us more, is if Democrats were more outward and open about our patriotism. And I mean, there are lots of ways to do that, like the famous, right there you go, like the famous James Baldwin quote, where like, I reserve the right to criticize. And I try to tell people that,
I love it.
I try to tell people that, I'm like, no, if you don't care about something, you're not invested in it, you're not fighting for it. But there are lots of ways that we could demonstrate our patriotism. Like I was thinking, when I was reading some of the Supreme Court decision for the birthright citizenship case, I was like, we could take some of the quotes out of this from like John Roberts and make a bumper sticker out of it. Like some of them were so good that you could like, we could just make it a slogan. It would be so good. And how can you possibly say that someone isn't patriotic when you're quoting the Chief Justice of the current Supreme Court? Like there are things that we can do to demonstrate that, and we actually need to, because we need it. Our country needs it. The undecided voters need it. The Democrats need it, right? And it's just the thing that I really wanted to say today too, because I've been asked about this a lot over the past couple of weeks, is why are the Democratic Socialists, why is that wing doing so well? And one of the things that I really wanted to tell people was, and I've probably told this story on this show before, but it's a short one. It's just when I was a speechwriter for the Georgia State Senate, at the very beginning, like my very first day, I was given this packet where the state senators all wrote their sort of like identity sheets, and then they came up together with a mantra, or like a what do they call a mission statement for the session. And it said something like, we believe that everybody should have food to eat and a bed to sleep in and a house to live in and healthcare and all of that. And so I wrote that into the speeches. And I gave it to the caucus director, and the caucus director was like, you can't say that. And I was like, what? She said, it's just too much. It's too much. Like, it's too, I was like, I quoted verbatim from the sheet that you got me. Why can't I say that? And she was like, it's just too much. And the fact is that if that was something that we believed in, and it was, and now so many people are jumping on the DSA wing of the party, specifically because they think we should have universal health care. It's like, you didn't have the courage of your convictions earlier on to say what your constituents wanted, to say what you wanted, and you made somebody else say it for you. And I really feel like that's what happened. And so now we are like riding this tiger that is democratic socialism because somebody else had to say what they didn't have enough courage to say in the first place, which is what we believed in.
Let me address both of those
Yeah.
in two different ways. Now, back during my first campaign against Green, one of the things I used to always say was, wearing a red hat doesn't make you a patriot. You guys don't own the Bible. You don't own the flag.
You don't.
First and foremost. I mean, I swore an oath and wrote a blank check up to and including my life, should I need to pay that ultimate sacrifice.
Right.
Because I love this country.
Yep.
Because I love what it stands for. Because I love the ideals that we espouse to.
So it's probably offensive for you to hear that,
Make me a patriot. I mean, yeah, it would piss me off to say, "Oh, you're a Democrat. How can you be a patriot?" Yeah, it pissed me off because,
it's like F you. Like,
I embody patriotism.
Is that not enough commitment for you? Like
this country all over the world, I embody it.
Yep.
So, wrapping yourself in the flag and thumping a Bible doesn't make you a patriot. I'm a Christian, a patriot. All of those things, it's not about what you wear or show on the outside. It's what you do and how you believe it makes you a patriot, in my opinion.
Absolutely.
As far as the democratic socialism thing, for me, it's perplexing to me because the things that these democratic socialists like Mamdani are doing are pretty much the same things that Democrats say they stand for. The things that we talk about, affordable housing, healthcare. These are the things that we talk
about. They wouldn't let me say it. Like they would not, they wouldn't say it.
Yeah, but would I go out and call myself a democratic socialist? No, I just say I'm a Democrat.
And maybe that's what they were afraid of.
Values. And for me, it's just, call yourself what you want to. I mean, just like with Bernie, but he talked about, things that I agreed with, things that I thought that went too far. I mean, again, we're supposed to be a big tent. Doesn't mean we have to agree on everything, but
no,
the things we're talking about are the same things that our platform and what we stand for. That's what they're doing. So to me, it's 6 in one hand, half dozen in the other. I mean, I
hear that.
I'm not sure.
I really do. I hear that.
This is not to minimize what you're saying, but I'm not really sure why we're fighting about it.
Right.
Because we're talking about the same stuff.
Right. I didn't understand why they wouldn't let me say it. You and I have the exact same perspective, actually, because I was like, I don't understand why. And maybe it's because they were afraid of being called socialist because they thought it was such a taboo. And so it took somebody like Mamdani to make the word cool, like to make socialist cool before, people were willing to get called that.
You're probably right, because Democrats have been beat over the head with the socialism moniker.
Communist, blah, 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 blah. Right now, nobody. The thing is, I think that it's been so successful for that reason first, right? Because Democrats didn't have the courage of their convictions, so somebody else had to say it for them. Yeah. And then secondly, because how can Trump sit on stage to get inaugurated next to Jeff Bezos and Peter Thiel, who are quite obviously asshole billionaires who look out for themselves, while the so-called communists, right, are out there advocating for the people. No one thinks that they're advocating for the billionaires. No one could possibly accuse them, right? You're accusing them of the opposite, that they're not, right? But
they're pissing some billionaires off right now. So
right, so like you can't look at Trump and compare the two. You just can't, and that's why I think they're losing right now.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, me too. Goodbye. See you later.
Bye-bye. All right. Let's talk about character now.
I love it.
And how it matters. And my party. So I'm sure everybody has heard about this scandal with Graham Plattner in Maine. Plattner's Senate bid is on the rocks after new sexual assault allegations have rightly sparked calls for him to drop out of the race.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like we talked a little bit about that.
Yeah, we did. And early on, we said, no thanks, bye, because it's not something that we believe in. And we here at With All Due Respect, we're not willing to sacrifice our values and win the wrong way. We just weren't willing to do it. Want to know why? Because just happens. Because you start building a movement on somebody who you can't trust, period. Like, you just don't mess with people like that. Figure out another way around it. Like, I get that people wanted to win. I get it. I want to win too. But
So do I.
there's a reason why you don't do that. There's a reason why you say, I'm not going to win like this. And it's because, first of all, the more you compromise your values and your integrity, the more we are like them, the guys that we don't want to be like.
You just open
right?
yourself up for that righteous criticism because, you can't take the moral high ground and then on the other hand say, but in this instance, you can't do that.
You can't.
There's winning and winning the right way. So.
It's not. And when I went on TV and talked about it, and I talked to Marcus and our crew, our partners, and I was like, this is how I feel about it. Yeah. And nobody tempered me. Everybody got on board and was like, you say how you feel. And we all were just like, yeah, I think we need to stick to our values and what we believe in. And so I gotta tell you, it does, it makes me so proud that I get to work with people like that who are so respectful of what I believe and stick by me with that. It's rare to find in this world. And I just, it's a good way to kick things off with this season here and go.
I want you to say it how you feel it, because that's
right?
how I'm going to say it.
And go, no, I'm not going to do that because I know it's wrong. And I don't want to be like the other guys. And I don't want to build a foundation of sand that can fall out at any moment.
Right.
And, so I just wanted to say I really appreciated that.
Yeah. You're more than welcome. And we love having you.
Thank you.
Love hearing your thoughts on everything. So
thank you. My goofy self. Thank you. Right back
There's that. And for Plattner's part, we have to say, he denies all the allegations and says he's taking time to reflect on the best path forward.
Goodbye. Another goodbye to you.
Thanks for nothing, Graham.
Thanks for nothing. What a butthead.
That's, and I gotta say, people have asked me about him in the past, and say, yeah, you should reach out to him and talk to him and get him on the show and things, and or do some work for him, maybe endorse him as a candidate, and I never did.
That's so interesting.
This is before all of these things came to pass.
Really?
Something
that makes sense. I mean, he'd be perfect for the show in theory, like on paper.
Theory, yeah. I mean, he looks like the type of guy that I'd be, he should be my kind of guy.
Right. On paper.
But something about him just didn't compel me to move on him.
I would 100% believe that.
That was just, and I didn't. And
good for you, man. Because you knew. You trust your instincts. You just trust your gut,
So, and I speak to a lot of candidates through the work we do with HTL, and I talk to them. I kind of feel them out. They feel me out. And, with people like Elaine, who I'm pretty sure I've met before somewhere on Capitol Hill, you just know.
Yeah, you just know.
Good people when you see them.
Yeah.
And when people don't give you that, not warm and fuzzy for lack of a better but there was just something that
you didn't sit right with you.
Yeah, I couldn't fully commit to saying, I'm on board with this guy.
Good for you, man.
Yeah, it just didn't happen. So moving right along.
Mm-hmm.
Where is Mitch McConnell right now?
Donde está? Where in the world is Carmen Mitch McConnell?
I mean, I got a question right now, and I know things always kind of break when we're on air here. So
it happens. Did
asking if he's dead or alive right now? So I don't know.
Yeah, has anybody looked it up? Should we Google it?
Don't know. Maybe we should.
Should we Google it? Let's see.
Go ahead. I mean, is there breaking news? Are we about to break it?
It's possible. Let's see here.
There've been like rumors that he's brain dead, or his campaign staff, or not campaign staff, but his staff are kind of keeping everything hush hush. So I don't know. I honestly, you catch me on air right now. We're talking about this. We don't know if he's alive or dead right now, and I'm being serious. So,
yep.
No answers. So,
New York Times 2 hours ago says Kentucky governor demands health update on Mitch McConnell. So we are still waiting to hear.
So NBC is rightfully wanting to know what's going on there. So I mean, I know we're pretty close to an election, and we've got our good friend Charles Booker out there, trying to make it happen on the Democratic side. So, Scott Jennings was apparently lying about speaking to Mitch McConnell, in 20 minutes.
My friend Mike Nellis
so
was on Abby Phillips' show last night talking about that, and he just called him out so hardcore. It was awesome. I reposted the clip on my Twitter, but he was just like, "Are you kidding me right now? Why lie about that? You're ridiculous."
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Maybe it's time for CNN to kind of part ways with that guy. I don't know. There's been a whole lot of complaints from people who are friends of mine who've sat down and been on air with him.
I have too.
That have said some things that are, make me kind of wonder why they would want to keep that relationship with Scott Jennings on CNN. I mean,
I think the deal is
the voice, but
right. I mean, it's good for ratings, because they fight, and so people go look at the clip, and then the advertisers want to advertise more.
A spirited debate is one thing,
Lying to the American people is another.
Lying is another thing altogether. So
yeah,
there you have it. I said it.
Totally.
All right, let's move on to Trump and NATO. He's at the NATO summit that kicked off yesterday in Turkey, and Trump doubled down on his claim that Greenland should be controlled by the U.S. I mean, more ridiculousness from Trump. We've heard it all before. He announces that he's going to lift sanctions on Turkey and will consider selling F-35s to the country. I mean, I'm of the opinion if Turkey gets their act together, why not? I worked in foreign military sales. I get it. So I'm not going to beat them up about that one. But Turkey's got some things that they need to clean up before we go down that road.
Yeah.
To come compliance and come on.
Absolutely. But when it comes to Greenland, so how there are like some issues that like you just can't get past. Like I told you, I cannot get over blaming the plane crash those first few weeks on DEI. Like there's no like putting my anger out about that issue. Like I was pacing my kitchen for hours. I was so angry. This is another one of those. And actually, it was so funny. I was sitting right here and I was debating somebody on Newsmax. It was Newsmax 2 that morning when I heard the anchor say, but this is going to be good for us and good for our allies. And I literally went, what? And I was like, no.
Denmark's an ally.
None of them agree with you. None of them agree with you. So, and I was like, please stop lying to everyone who's watching this right now, because there's no universe in which that is true. Like there's no version of events or like order of facts that would make that a legitimate argument. And I'm not going to sit here and pretend like it is,
And there's no world where the outcome of doing that is going to be a good one.
No, it's not.
That happens. I mean, only bad things happen
after
that. And hopefully he's, the guy's sundowning. So I'm only taking half of what he's saying when it comes to Greenland. Seriously, I think he may just be throwing some more red meat out there, but at the same time, I don't put anything past him.
Yeah, totally. And there's another Substack on here. It's called A Dissent in Bloom. And she does a really phenomenal job of telling us why JD Vance definitely shouldn't be president. That's the only thing that I'm scared of is like once Trump goes, like, is it going to be worse? Because
it could be.
because he's just a level of evil that, and it's so funny because I've sat in the green rooms with like Republican news people, and I'll be like, JD Vance is a shark. Like he literally looks like his eyes are set back further in his head. Like if like that's the vibe I get from him. And they all agree with me. Like they might love Trump, but they'll go, yeah, there's just something about JD Vance that I don't trust. And I was like, I knew it. Like I knew you still had some instincts in there.
You can't out Trump when it comes to that. And I don't think JD is going to try. And as you said, that level of evil, he's smarter than Trump.
Yeah.
And he's, I'd say, a little more sinister. For Trump, it's all about the grift.
Right. It's for the grift and putting his name on everything. And yeah.
You know, you get that, you know, it's about him grifting as much as possible, not really giving a damn about the country, you know, not understanding the consequences of these dumbass policies that are in Project 2025 that he's being led by the nose through. For him, it's about making money for him and his family. And, you know, for others in that administration, it's about destroying those guardrails and implementing Project 2025 and taking democracy away. Because you have people on that side who don't believe in this experiment any further.
A fact.
And, you know, they want something else. Trump, he's like, I want my legacy and I want money. Yeah, you understand that about him. That's not clear with JD Vance.
JD Vance is a big tech venture capitalist who has been sponsored by Peter Thiel, who is a war profiteer, big tech venture capitalist. Yeah. The biggest threat to business right now is the empathy and humanitarianism that's developing in the world right now. Because the more empathy people develop, the less they're going to want to kill people. Because then when you realize that everybody is somebody's mother, father, sister, brother, whatever, you stop wanting to go to war. And the fact is that I fully understand and respect defense, right? But they literally changed the name of the effing department. So like, and then they want to invade Greenland. So, you know, that's how I feel about it. But that
in and of itself, I mean, we think that sounds like something that's really easy to do, but putting boots on the ground there,
they didn't do anything.
Disaster. It would be a disaster.
A disaster. And they already said, if you want to build military bases here, please go right ahead. We're not stopping you.
We already have them there.
Right.
So, you know, it's nuts.
I can't believe he's pulling that thread again.
Yeah, he's. What are you going to do? It's Trump. Trump. I think that's another result of his dementia. Speaking of which, according to Trump, it's not all Iran, but the Islamic Republic of Japan.
I told this story yesterday. We had 111 missiles shot by the Islamic Republic of Japan. They were shot at the aircraft carrier.
I hadn't seen that.
There's a new group out there, the Islamic Republic of Japan.
Is he mad at Japan, or was this just a straight up mistake?
No, it was just a straight up, he's Trump and he's sundowning, dementia dawn moment.
Oh my God. And you know what's so funny is when people are like, you have TDS. I'm like, no, I don't. I can say a good thing that he did. He has a great relationship with Japan. He took the one thing that I had for him.
He's blown that twice, you know, with the Japanese prime minister in front of him talking about Nagasaki and Hiroshima.
That was horrible.
Horrible. And now he's giving Japan an Islamic Republic. So, hey.
Japan, it's like, no, like that's not even close. Like there are other Asian countries that you could have chosen that were not Japan.
Yeah.
Like you could have gone so many other directions.
So many other places you could have used, and not Japan, but
right.
You know, he didn't even acknowledge it. He didn't slow down. He didn't skip a beat because I don't even think he realized what he said.
Nope.
So
terrifying.
Again, it's Trump. I think we touched on those renovations, quote unquote,
Mhm.
the reflecting pool, you know,
We did.
the destruction, the grift. You know, is there any other news that we need to hit?
We have some personal news. Over
ahead.
this past weekend,
Yeah.
with all due respect, with Marcus Flowers, reached number 70 out of the top 100 fastest growing Substacks in politics
Nice.
for paid subscribers. So we want, first of all, want to say thank you. Thank you,
Thank
thank
you,
you, thank you,
everybody.
thank you, thank you so much to
We
everybody who's watching.
appreciate all of
Thank
our
you
subscribers.
so much. Whether you're a free subscriber or a paid subscriber or whatever, thank you. We are incredibly grateful to you because the whole point of this is just to get the word out
That's it.
and to do it in as reasonable a way as possible. But when you contribute to this, it gets the word out more for us. That's really what it does. And it means a lot to us because I think you guys wouldn't be here if you didn't know that we genuinely care very much about what we're talking about. And we want to share the perspective that we've developed from each of our experiences and the studying that we've done with people. And when you've done something like that, that's put us up there on a leaderboard, you know, we can't thank you enough. And, you know, you come on and off the leaderboards. We're off of it now, but we can come back on. So my quick request is just if you find any video or any article on With All Due Respect on the main page or whatever you click on, just send it to one person if you can, please. It won't cost you anything. I'll take 5 seconds. Just share it because that'll get us back in the algorithm so we can share it more.
What have you.
So yes, that was my little piece of good news.
We and the team behind us, we appreciate it more.
We
than
love
anything.
you guys.
We appreciate you because this democracy is important to all of us, and keeping it is the job. That's the mission. That's what we're here for. That's why we bring these great people on to talk with you every week so that we can all share a vision and work to make this country what it should be, what it can be. That's it.
Absolutely.
That's the job. And with that, Maddie.
Yep.
We've been on for an hour and a half today. This is our longest show ever.
Nice. Nice.
The longest show ever. But we had fun. I mean, so much fun talking with Elaine Luria today. Thank you again to her for joining us. Thank you to her team for letting us keep her for a full hour. That was great. Again, thank you to all of our subscribers and non-subscribers who come in and watch the show.
Thank you guys.
We appreciate you. And Godspeed. Enjoy the rest of your week, guys.
See you next week.
Goodbye.